Jordan Peterson sat down with Ayaan Hirsi Ali on his podcast, and in the clip I'm about to show you, Peterson had a really good and unique take on why you as an individual and a society needs Christianity. They go into this after Ayaan explains her conversion story to Christianity, which is incredible, and I did a video on that on my channel that you can check out here. Here's Peterson, and then I'll finish with a brief thought about what it really means to be Christian and why it is so needed for every single human being.
One of the things that I've come to realize, tell me what you think about this. This took a lot of thought to conjure up. I guess it was brought home to me with particular force. I did a documentary with Jonathan Pageau in Jerusalem, and we walked the Stations of the Cross, and then we ended up in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And I learned some things about that church that I didn't know historically. So I didn't know that it was founded by Constantine's mother. And I didn't know that it was really the first Christian church. And it's on the site, it purports to be on the site of the crucifixion. Okay, so when I was there, a bunch of images. So I was in the church, and then I was in the center of the church, and then I was in a small room at the very center of the church that contained a cross, very elaborate cross. And so I was in the center of the center of the center of the center, let's say. And a bunch of things fell into place, realizations fell into place. So the first thing I understood was that European towns were based on the model that was, if not established, at least substantively elaborated upon by Constantine's mother. We have a ceremonial building in the shape of a cross at the center of the town. And so it's the staff in the ground around which the town is organized. And in the center of the church, we have an altar that's the center. And on that, there's a ritual of sacrifice being conducted. And so what we're acting out is the proposition that sacrifice is the core of the community. And so now I've been thinking about that biologically, because I'm an evolutionary psychologist, let's say, at least in part. And what I've come to understand is that there's no difference between the process of true cortical maturation and the process of self-sacrifice. They're the same thing, because to be in a community, you have to offer up what's narrowly individual, right? So when you socialize a toddler, you help the toddler integrate his or her primordial biological urges, their intrinsic hedonism. You help them integrate that into a framework that enables them to understand that they have a future and can't act to destroy that, and understand that they have to exist in relationship to other people. And so that's a kind of harmony. It's a sacrificial harmony. And so what that means, if that's true, and I can't see how it can be not true, is that society itself is based on the principle of sacrifice. Work is sacrifice, because you sacrifice the pleasures of the moment to the community in the future, right? And the community itself is a form of sacrificial organization. So then if you accept that, and I can't see how you can formulate an argument to the contrary, if you accept that, the next question that emerges is, well, what's the ultimate or ideal form of sacrifice? And the Christian passion is a portrayal of something approximating the final sacrifice, right? It's a union of sacrifice of child and self. So those are the two most brutal forms of sacrifice. It's an rejection of power in relationship to that sacrifice. So there's no indication whatsoever that the fundamental uniting principle of the Christian world is power. Quite the contrary, because Christ never resorts to power regardless of the provocation. And so what we have at the core of our culture is the recognition that sacrifice is central, and then the elaboration of a pattern of ultimate sacrifice that involves something like exposing yourself to the full force of mortal vulnerability and the full reality of evil. That's the harrowing of hell. And as far as I can tell, I've written all this out in great detail in this new book of mine, by the way. As far as I can tell, I can't see anything about that that's not in keeping with what we know at the deepest levels in the world of evolutionary psychology. And I can't see anything about it that's erroneous on the conceptual side. Because how could community be anything other than the result of the sacrificial gesture on the part of the individual? I mean, if you're a wife, you sacrifice your whims to the marriage.
Yeah.
If you're a mother, you sacrifice your narrow self-interest to your children. If you're a family in relationship to other families, you sacrifice the narrow interest of your family to the harmony of the community, and so on, all the way up the subsidiary hierarchy. And, you know, at the end of Tolstoy's Confessions, I don't know if you ever read that, but it details something very much like what you described happening to you. So Tolstoy became suicidally desperate at the height of his fame and earthly material success. He was an unbelievably rich man. He was known all over the world. He was a great literary figure. People compared him to Shakespeare. He had a wife and a flourishing family. Like, on the purely material front, Tolstoy had it nailed. And he was so suicidal that he was afraid to walk alone around his estates. And he had a dream, and this is how Confessions end. He dreamt that he was suspended in an immense space, and he was looking down into the abysmal, bottomless pit of despair, let's say. But he was suspended. And he turned around and looked up and realized that there was a cord around his waist made of gold, and the cord extended upward into the sky past where he could see. And so he was suspended over the abyss of despair by a relationship with what was transcendent and highest, right? It's like an image of Jacob's ladder. It's that extends up into the ineffable stratospheres that is our ally, you might say, is our ally against what? The terror of mortality and malevolence. And as far as I can tell, too, that's not some ignorant superstition. That's a foolish way of considering it. It's actually the way the proper order of the cosmos is constituted.
That very last thing that Peterson said there is extremely important. We are not talking about ignorant superstitions. We are talking about the proper order of the cosmos. We've become confused, and Christianity has lost its identity in this day and age because it's been categorized and termed as a religion. Christians didn't even create the term Christian. This was a word used to categorize the first of us by the Romans and Jews at the time. The first followers of Jesus of Nazareth, who believed that he was the Messiah and rose from the dead, simply called it the way. And that, I believe, to be more fitting to what we're talking about. It's the way that leads to life in full. It's the way to life for human beings and all living things. This way is the proper alignment with the cosmic order. And when you are in alignment with the cosmic order, you experience the joy, peace, meaning, fulfillment, success, and love that every one of us is yearning for. Christianity should be thought of like the law of gravity. When you abide by and align yourself properly with gravity, it allows you to live and thrive in this universe. If you choose not to abide and misalign yourself against gravity, you will surely get hurt or die. I've said this before, the trees are Christian because they align themselves properly with the cosmic order, the logos. Trees don't have a choice in the matter, though. They are simply aligned with the cosmic order and contribute to creation, to life as they should. The thing about humanity is that we have the choice to align ourselves with the way, the law that leads to life in full or not. We believe marriage is between a man and a woman. A woman cannot become a man or vice versa. There are only two sexes, male and female, and sex outside of marriage, stealing, murdering, lying, and cheating are wrong because these are misaligned with the objective way to live and thrive for living things. The problems that we face as individuals and as a society are very simply the result of misalignment with the way that leads to life. When we keep Christ, the way, the truth, and the life at the center of our lives and our culture and our societies, life increases and we progress and we thrive. When we remove Christ from the center, we deny gravity, and we inevitably suffer the catastrophic consequences of this misalignment.